Over a span of 24 years, William Shakespeare produced 37 plays and 154 sonnets. The sheer mathematical volume is significant, but it doesn't explain why we are still staging these specific scripts and reciting these exact lines 4 centuries later. Human life is defined by its contradictions. We exercise noble reason and map the stars, yet remain susceptible to violent irrationality and an almost constant existential dread. Shakespeare looked at these colliding forces and asked how they could exist within the same mind. He operated as an incredibly astute, clinical observer of human behavior. He used the wooden stage of the Globe Theatre as an active laboratory to test exactly how the human mind reacts under extreme pressure. Across his plays, he meticulously dissected 3 distinct psychological battlegrounds. He looked at the chaos of human desire, the corrosive rot of a guilty conscience, and the sheer fragility of the mind when faced with existential dread. By analyzing these scripts, we can track the specific ways he mapped the human psyche, creating a documentation of our nature that we are still trying to reconcile today. Consider how we experience romance. Pure logic dictates that we should choose partners who bring stability and peace to our lives. In practice, however, romantic love completely defies human reason. We often define love as an unshakable, ever-fixed mark, but Shakespeare routinely modeled it as an irrational, destructive force, a madness that strips highly intelligent people of their wits and binds them to chaotic, shifting loyalties. This is the 1593 title page for his narrative poem, Venus and Adonis, a foundational document detailing his views on the dark side of physical desire. He clinically dissected pure lust as an expensive spirit, a primal urge that forces humans to frantically hunt a physical prize, only to be filled with shame and hatred the exact moment they attain it. Human desire, in his estimation, is an agonizing paradox. It is an endless war between the rational boundaries we set for ourselves and the infinite, uncontrollable impulses of our biology. The mind becomes even more vulnerable when subjected to power and the inescapable toll of a guilty conscience. This diagram visualizes moral paralysis. When King Claudius murders his brother in Hamlet, he provides a masterclass on the agony of what he calls a limed soul. He is trapped. He desperately wants spiritual forgiveness, but he refuses to surrender the political crown and the queen he stole to get it. His mind is locked in a frozen loop between repentance and greed. When that guilt is repressed, it eventually fractures a person's identity. Richard III wakes from a nightmare with a splintered psyche, realizing his own conscience condemns him from 1,000 different angles. Lady Macbeth's infected mind drives her to sleepwalking, her body physically breaking down as it attempts to scrub away invisible blood. This exposes a universal hypocrisy about human authority. The moment a person is handed absolute power, the fragile, deeply flawed nature of proud man is revealed, demonstrating how quickly our morals collapse when no one can hold us accountable. Guilt is rarely portrayed in his work as a simple religious failing. It operates as a visceral, self-inflicted psychological pathogen that eats the host from the inside out until the mind breaks completely. But the ultimate test of the human psyche is what happens when it is pushed past its breaking point. Clinical madness is frequently depicted as a necessary mental refuge from sudden, unbearable trauma. When Ophelia's father is violently murdered by the man she loves, her sovereign reason shatters. Her break from reality is the only way her brain can process the grief. Madness also acts as a brutal equalizer. When deposed rulers like King Lear are stripped of their wealth and driven into the wilderness, their societal illusions burn away. They realize that underneath the royal titles and fine clothes, a human being is nothing more than a frail, vulnerable animal. Perhaps the most profound example is Hamlet himself, the ultimate embodiment of depression and existential dread. He contemplates suicide, but stops because he is terrified of the undiscovered country of the afterlife. The fear of what happens after death forces him to endure a miserable, painful existence. These portraits suggest that our most persistent anxiety isn't rooted in external violence or physical hardship. It is the vast, terrifying emptiness of our own mortality, the fear of a life that may ultimately be sans everything. These historic psychological profiles find direct resonance in modern society. The class inequalities of Coriolanus echo contemporary wealth disparity, while the political hypocrisy of Measure for Measure mirrors how authority functions today. Whether it is ancient Roman senators plotting an assassination or 16th century royalty descending into madness, the root causes of our comedies and tragedies remain identical. The clothing changes, but the internal wiring of the human brain has not evolved past its base contradictions. We have to stop viewing these plays as dusty academic assignments. They are a timeless, unflinching mirror, and when we look into them, we see a reflection of our own chaotic, beautiful, and deeply flawed humanity.